My name is Chaim Shmuel. Do you have questions for me?
Yeah, I just want to introduce you to some of my viewers on YouTube. This is a good friend of mine from Israel. First off, maybe start by telling us where you're from and how old you were when you became interested in Judaism.
I'm from Holland originally, and I was about 15, 16 years old when I started getting interested in Judaism.
All right. So what would be the main factor that led to your decision in becoming Jewish?
I don't know if I could actually answer the question what's the main factor, because there were many factors, but I think in the end what it comes down to is uh, the the fact that I was displeased with how society looked, and I also looked for the answer to that situation in politics, basically. So I was always conservative in my political views, but in the end, I actually figured that even if a state functions according to certain laws, whether they're conservative or more liberal, it won't really impact the personal life of anyone to lead them to make more moral decisions. So
Like when they're in privacy, for example.
in privacy, in private situations, or even in business, uh, in any situation really. So I was raised also in a religious home. It wasn't orthodox in any way, but we read the Bible, and my parents are believing Christians, so I was familiar a bit with religion, with the, the 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 Bible, the ethics of the Bible. So I started looking more in that direction, which in the end led me to convert to Judaism, and also led me to believe that the answer to all those questions that I had about how a state should look, how personal life should of any person should look. Basically, the Torah entails all of these things. So that's what led me to convert to Judaism.
There weren't any having come from a Christian background, there weren't any like struggles that you had internally, perhaps, like letting go of Christ. You know, Christians teach that He's the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes to the Father, to the Creator, but by Him.
That's true, and really, I would say that there are two processes that went on with me.
All right.
Getting interested in Judaism. Many people they get interested in Judaism through Christianity, which is also the case with me. But I already decided really that looking at the Torah, looking at Jewish life, at least how it should look ideally, that this is what I wanted. The only problem that I had was that I wasn't so sure if I could let go of the things that I heard at home,
Like what?
that I believed, thought I believed really, that Jesus is the Messiah for everyone, that by that belief in him basically was necessary. I didn't know really for what, because my parents never really condemned anyone for not believing in Christ or these things, or never really taught us that you would go to hell if you didn't believe it. So I didn't know for what it was necessary, but it was still like an important dogma that was problematic for me to let go of.
So how do you know though that the New Testament isn't authoritative? How do you know that you don't have to have a faith in Him? How do you know He's not the Messiah?
I actually like the way you posed the question authoritative, because if you were to ask me how do you know that it's not true, well, I don't really. But if you were to ask me how do you know it's not true, I wouldn't completely know how to answer in every respect, because maybe historically it does have some value, but indeed it is no authority for me to govern my life.
Why?
Because when I started touching on the subject, which religion should I choose? Judaism, Christianity. I searched websites of missionaries, anti-missionary websites, was searching in books what could be the truth, what could be the proper interpretation of many prophecies that tell us about the Mashiach. And in the end, I wasn't getting further because some things do seem to be interpretable in a way that they could point to a Messiah, but also they could be interpreted in a way that that is not pointing towards the Messiah. And many of the sages of Israel aren't even certain what many prophecies mean. There are multiple interpretations. So what was I to believe?
Right.
So in the end, I went to a shiur of a rabbi because
A lesson.
a lesson, and it was talking about was organized by an organization of people who were B'nai Noach, and they people who are not Jewish, but they believe in the 7 commandments of
Noah.
Noah.
Right.
And they had invited a rabbi to speak, so I went to this class, and he asked a question which basically led me to make the decision to accept Judaism without any hesitation, without any reservations, to think that should I be doing this? Could this be the right thing? Isn't this betraying?
So like what did he
isn't
touch
this
on?
betraying Jesus?
Uh.
What he basically told us was that many Jews, if you would speak to them, they wouldn't be able to explain to you perfectly why do these prophecies not point towards Jesus, even if you speak to religious Jews. And why is that? Just simply because they are not bothered by the question. It's not one of their main dogmas which they learn in order to disprove. That is because the truth of the Torah, they believe that religious Jew will believe that the Torah is the one and only authority by which he governs his life, and this is also what God commanded him to do. And God commanded him, saying that these statutes which are found in the Torah, they're forever. They don't change.
But maybe you could add more commandments to it, like
And
that you have to believe.
This
in
is
Jesus.
also a famous verse in the Torah,
Or that accept Muhammad.
which it says that don't take away from them, but also don't add to them. So for sure, any religion which adds to them is false, and also which takes away from them, that religion is false. So even though I figured this out, could it be that Jesus is the Messiah? Maybe I was thinking. So then he went on to explain that knowing what I just said, the entire question is really irrelevant, because a religious Jew would believe that in the times of the Messiah, when the Messiah will come, he will continue doing exactly the same thing which he's doing now. He will continue to keep Torah, and the Messiah will actually start an era in which it is easier for him to keep more of the commandments. He will restore the servant of the temple. He will allow him to do all the mitzvot, all the commandments that are only possible in the land of Israel. So if anything, the Messiah will enable us to live a life which is more dedicated to the service of God,
According to the Torah.
according to the Torah, and not according to anything else. So knowing this, the question whether or not he is the Messiah becomes irrelevant, because even if he would be, then a religious Jew will continue to do the commandment of God, and if he's not, then also will continue to do the commandments of God. So the difference have become irrelevant, and I decided that I can embrace Judaism fully. And then basically the only thing that was important was to learn as much as possible. So that's what I started to do. I started to learn as much as possible about Judaism. Every book that I could get my hands on,